Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to Lady Khadija radiallahu anha. May God be pleased with her online college. Live lesson in A-level maths, and it's pure maths, year 1, following the Edexcel syllabus for UK A-level and international A-level. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. We will take a look at completing the square in this lesson, following on from the previous lesson, but this time it's a little bit more advanced, so it is a longer technique with a lot more steps, but hopefully you'll find that all the steps are quite easy. So we're going to take a look at, we've already done the first two, let's take a look at the next one, 2x squared minus 12x. The difference here is that you don't just have x squared at the beginning, you've got something x squared. So 2x squared, 3x squared, if there's any number before the x squared, then the technique we need to use is to factorize out the 2. So normally you would use curved brackets and factorize out the 2x squared minus this. In this case, in this example, is going to be quite easy. It's going to be 12 divided by 2, which makes 6. In harder examples, what you'll find is you'll typically write it as a fraction. So whatever that number in the middle is, even if it can't be divided perfectly, then if you write it as a fraction, you can still get it to factorize like that. So that's 12 over 2. In this case, 12 over 2 is nice and easy, that's just 6. So we can replace that with 6. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the curved brackets for square brackets. The reason is you are going to do another pair of brackets. So if you can do these ones as square, then it makes it a lot easier. And also you need a lot of space. So notice the extra space I've put in here. Okay, next thing is we get to work. Leave the 2 on the outside, leave the square brackets, but take a look at the inside and try to use the technique from the previous lesson where we complete the square on x squared minus 6x. This should be straightforward using the exact same technique because there's no 2 anymore, it's just x squared. So let's try that. We've got 2 square bracket, leave a lot of space. So here, remember, we're completing the square, so we're going to need a single bracket. Inside is x minus and then half of what you see here. Again, on an easy example, you'll get a whole number. Sometimes do expect a fraction here. Just half what you see here. Put that single bracket as a square and then take away whatever you have here, even if it's a minus, whatever you have here, it's always the same number but squared. Okay, let's tidy up. So we've got 2 on the outside, x minus 3 bracket squared, and then take away the 9. Okay, now comes the time to try to get rid of these square brackets. So what we're going to do is use the 2, and that's 2 times the first bracket and 2 times the 9 here. So we've got 2 times the x minus 3 bracket, and then 2 times the minus 9, that would be minus 18. So final answer is 2 bracket x minus 3 squared minus 18. Just looking through those steps again, we've got completing the square where we didn't have just x squared, so we needed to do something to that. So we factorized out whatever was in front. So that became 2 at the front, and then single brackets with whatever's left. Sometimes you will get a fraction. Then we swapped the curved brackets for squared brackets. Then we did the completing the square technique just on the inside. then we simplified, and then finally we dealt with the 2 on the outside. That 2 on the outside is just timesing by 2, so that just meant everything had to be times by 2. The bracket just gets 2 at the front, and the 9 gets times by 2. Okay, let's go on to a slightly more advanced example. This one is 3x squared plus 6x plus 1. Okay, same technique. We need to try to factorize out the 3. So I'm going to straight away use the square brackets this time because hopefully you're used to it. So everything gets divided by 3, except I'm only coming up to here. The plus 1 I'm not going to touch. So x squared to begin, because 3 times x squared makes 3x squared, or 3x squared. Factorize out the 3 and you're left with x squared. Similarly on the 6x, so factorize out the 3, meaning divide by 3, and you're left with 2x. And then the plus 1, if you imagine, that can just be added onto the side here at the end. No need to really do much with the plus 1. Okay, let's use the same technique we've used in previous lessons now on the inside. So single bracket, x plus, you need to half this, so that would be 1. And then minus the 1 squared. Close that square bracket now. Then we've got the plus 1. I won't put the dots in anymore. That was just for you to kind of see I'm separating it out. Now use the technique from the previous example, times out the 3 twice. So you've got 3. Just before I times out the 3, let's simplify a bit. 1 squared is just 1, so I can rub that out. Just write 1 instead. That'll make the timesing a lot easier now. So now 3 times the bracket, and then 3 times the minus 1 makes minus 3. Now the square brackets can be dropped because we've dealt with the 3 now, which was at the front. The plus 1 still doesn't change, that just gets added on at the end. So now the final thing is to realize, okay, the minus 3 and the plus 1 can be combined. So minus 3 plus 1 is 2. So a long technique, but hopefully you understand that each step is quite easy. So first couple of steps, we were just factorizing out the 3 just from the first 2 bits, leaving the plus 1 as plus 1. Then dealing with the inside of the square brackets, just doing a simple 1 bracket complete the square technique. So the 2 of the 2x gets halved. And we have x plus 1 squared minus 1 squared. Again, the plus 1 gets left. Simplify the 1 squared to 1 and then multiply the 3 to both parts. Finally, the minus 3 plus 1 can be simplified into 1. So that's completing the square advanced technique. Okay, join me for more in the next lesson. Lady Khadija Online College. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.